I can't, in good faith, in front of Doko, have the Kings lose. They get to the playoffs, and that will beg the question, what should the Kings do with this roster? So I got them sneaking into the 8th seed.
You're home for Kings talk and so much more.
Live and local.
Allen Stiles on Sactown Sports.
Keegan needs to be decisive like when he asked his girlfriend to marry him the other day. No hesitation. That's from the 916 to kick off our text. The texts have been flying in, but we're going to get to them now as Daniel Garcia will join us at 12.
In Keegan Murray's defense, you don't know. He could have been an emotional wreck. He could have been, falling apart and crying his eyes out as he got ready to propose to the love of his life.
That's possible. It's very possible. But good call there, 916. And if you want to be a part of the conversation, 916-339-1140. Going to open up the phone lines like we said. Daniel Garcia joins us for a segment at 12. He was named top 30 best pro wrestlers under 30 by ESPN, and he will be in Sacramento for AEW as they have the AEW Dynamite and Collision March 5th and Saturday, March 8th. You can stream that on TBS, TNT, and Max, or you can be there yourself and be in the building, AEWTix.com and Ticketmaster. So we're opening up the phone lines, 916-339-1140. How you feeling about the Sacramento Kings? Is it all fool's gold? Is it all fool's gold as the Kings beat the Jazz, who stink? They beat the Rockets, who are legit, but they had stumbled a bit and heated up a little bit. And like I said, you add Fred VanVleet. They have no clue what their rotations are, so you cut the Rockets at a good time. And then you beat the Mavericks, who are missing
7 players.
By the time the Kyrie went out, they were missing technically, 4 starters, 3 starters?
7 of their
5 starters?
7 rotation players.
7 rotation players.
It was Kyrie, Anthony Davis, Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, Caleb Martin. I'm forgetting one also, but basically 7 rotation players.
So you could say Allen.
Oh, Moses Brown.
Allen, Denver is not the same. And we are going to have a rude awakening tomorrow night. You can feel like that. We'll see. I'm not promising a W, but I want to promise competitiveness. I want to promise that I believe in Coach Doug Christie and his ability to get the guys fired up in a situation like this. That's what I do want to believe. And speaking of Doug Christie, it is time for Christie's Cuts.
Everybody, Kai and everybody over there is okay, first and foremost. You hate to see guys go down. So a lot of love to everybody over on that side of the locker room. For us, a professional win is kind of how I put it. A lot of times we have taken our foot off the gas sometimes when people have gone down or whatever. And to the guys' credit, they came out in the third quarter and really played a good defensive game, which is more important to me than, making shots and all this. We want to do that, obviously, but there's a side of the floor that's going to help us in the long run. So really, really proud of that as they continue to solidify their identity. Defensively is where we need to continue to improve and hang our hat. And you're going to go through this league, you're going to win some, you're going to lose some, but the point of what we're trying to do is continue to work on us. Like, the opponent is going to be the opponent. Sometimes you're going to run into a team that is top 2 in the West, and then you'll run into somebody who's, bottom 10 in the Eastern Conference. For us at this point where we're at, it's not about the opponent. It's about how we go at the game, how we digest what we're doing, how we look at rotations, and are we doing all the things? Are we playing the right way on both ends of the court? And when I look down and see 34 assists, that makes me smile, because they know that I want them to move the basketball and share it and trust each other, that when you get off the ball, it's going to come back to you. So for me, it's more about us than it is about anything. There's a way that you approach a game. It's kind of what I alluded to. It's about you. It's not about your opponent. So your approach, I don't put more on that. I don't put less on that. I am going to play at a professional level regardless who's across from me. I'm going to give it up. I'm going to dive on the floor. I'm doing every single thing that I can do. And listen, I've been in this league, so there's, big time quote unquote games and a lot of different things. But on the best team that I ever played on, we didn't look at it that way. We came in to play everybody. And then, as I said, the byproduct of that was a really good record. It was a really good run. And that's what I want them to understand. You do not look past your opponents. You do not disrespect your opponents. You come in, and really to give your opponent the most respect is you go at them.
There you go. Those were Christie's cuts. And as we break down everything that Doug Christie has been preaching all season long, taking care of us, I don't know, he's got to be coming up with this stuff just on his own, but he always has these great kind of motivational terms that just all about internal growth, not worrying about the outside. And I keep saying that this year, he is the perfect man for the job because he is very good at making things about them on the inside. It ain't about, if you're gone, you're gone, right? If you were a part and you're not a part anymore, thank you for your service, but we're not really messing with you like that anymore. If you don't believe in us, we ain't really messing with you like that anymore. If you got something negative to say or positive to say, we're focused on how we believe and what we're doing internally. And Doug Christie, that's exactly what I think the Kings need specifically for this season. Kyle, we're getting some news here, and Shams is reporting, he was on the Pat McAfee show, and essentially with everything that went down with Kyrie, Shams now says that, I think, here's the quote, I think him, talking about Anthony Davis, I think his representatives are going to huddle up. I think they're going to have some very hard conversations. It's not out of the realm of possibility that one game was the last time we've seen Anthony Davis this season. So basically, based on where the team is at right now and Anthony Davis's history, why run out there, put more miles on your body for a team that probably isn't going anywhere? Now, funny enough, as we joke about obviously different injuries, but we've had conversations about De'Aaron Fox. And once Wemby went out, well, go get your finger fixed. And the argument is, hey, the finger kind of is what it is. He can just get it fixed in the offseason. He's trying to ingratiate himself with the fan base. Anthony Davis doesn't really care about ingratiating himself with the fan base. And I shouldn't even say that. Different injuries and different injury history. So for Anthony Davis, does it really make sense for him to put himself out there in a season that's all but lost? You don't have a point guard. Just because Anthony Davis is coming back, the whole thing was he finally gets to play with centers. Still have to pay attention to when Daniel Gafford, who went out after Anthony Davis, and Derek Lively as well. So it's not that simple. And moving into next season, where the Mavs go next, if Kyrie is still a Mav, obviously. So Kyrie has a player option after this season.
$43 million player option. If he turns it down, he can be an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting what he's going to do next, because before this injury, I would have said he opts out and he signs somewhere else. He's built up his value again. He's got one more big contract before the NBA rules say you can only sign like a 2-year deal after this. So I thought he would opt out. Now it's a little bit of a different question, because no matter where he goes, he's not going to be ready for the start of the season. So let's just say the Lakers, right? Let's say the Lakers cleared the cap space, signed Kyrie, did a sign and trade. He wanted to go play with Luka. If you're the Lakers now and you don't get that long-term commitment from Luka, you can't even afford to pay Kyrie knowing he's going to come back mid-season. Or if you're a team like Miami, Kyrie, you're signing Kyrie for the long term. So I think it's really interesting what he's going to end up doing if he just takes the $43 million and says, hey, I'm going to hit free agency in 2026. And at that point, I'll be 35 and we'll see what happens. But it's a really awful situation for Kyrie, but also for the Dallas Mavericks, because the Mavericks might lose Luka and Kyrie one way or another.
Yeah, that guaranteed money, sometimes it's great, sometimes it'll burn you. So we'll see what happens with Kyrie. And look, the reason all this matters is if Anthony Davis doesn't play again, like I said, I've decided to stop worrying about the Kings falling out of the play-in, and I'm to the point where I'm not even really thinking that much about the 10 seed. I don't really want to think too much about the 9 seed. But as we have mentioned these 4 teams, I already wasn't mentioning the Mavericks. And if they decide the Mavericks, or I should say more so Anthony Davis's camp, decides, hey, it's not really worth it, we're going to see what Kyrie decides to do, and this we're not winning a championship with no Kyrie, and where the position that we're at right now, if we go in as a 10 seed has never even made it to the playoffs. So we're just going to continue to rest up and take a great swing at it next season. So now there is no reason. Now we can eliminate 11, right? We can eliminate 10 because that will probably be occupied by the Mavericks. Now it's a conversation of 4 teams, 4 spots between 6 and 9. The goal is to look, Optimistic Allen is still here. I love to have the 6 seed, but in my opinion, the goal is to not get 9. You don't get 9. I trust this team to get hot one of the 2 games, whether it's at home or on the road. And then we can have a conversation. Would you rather face the Warriors? We'll have that conversation when it's time. Would you rather face the Warriors in that 7-8 game, the Clippers in that 7-8 game, or the Timberwolves? There is a team that I have in mind, but we'll discuss that when it is time.
Yeah, and when Optimistic Allen prognosticated at Doco that they would be in the 8, and Jake Gayden said 7.
He said 7.
They're in the 7 right now. Give Jake Gayden all the credit.
Oh, yeah. He gave himself credit on social media. I retweeted it. Shout out Jake from CBS.
Yeah. When you guys were talking about it, I thought maybe they weren't going to get there at all, but my prognostication was they're going to end up in the 9-10 game. I don't know if that meant 9. I don't know if that meant 10. I just said they were going to end up in the 9-10 game. And the team I felt most confident they would pass is Dallas because of the injuries. And now you throw Kyrie in on top of Anthony Davis, on top of Gafford, on top of Lively, who Lively might not be back the rest of the season. You look at that and it's like, yeah, they've already been passed, and it's only going to get worse from here for Dallas. So the Kings essentially have a 2-game lead on Dallas now, thanks to winning the season series, and they're 1 game up, obviously, right now. So they've got a head start, and Dallas is falling in the wrong direction. So you feel better about it. I'm not going to write off the 10 seed altogether because Dallas has won some crazy games this year. We didn't expect them to win, but now's where Dallas was the team I could have seen them jumping. I'm having a hard time envisioning them jumping any of these other 3 teams, but they've done half the battle in basically 4 games.
Yeah.
So I give them all that credit. Like, I thought it was going to take until April to possibly get out of the 10 seed, and they would jump Dallas. They've already done that work in 4 or 5 games. So all the credit in the world for that.
Well, look, I would say this, keep an eye. I know it's still early and their strength of schedule is much easier than the Kings, but Steph Curry rolled his ankle yesterday. Like I said during crosstalk, he did have a slight limp. Look, the Warriors need to have the conversation. At what point are they saying we need every single game? Because coming off a back-to-back, they get the Nets. They get the Nets later this season, or excuse me, later this week on Thursday. Is it worth playing Steph in a back-to-back East Coast game against the Knicks when you know your schedule gets easier? Is it worth Steph, with his ankle history at his age, is it worth throwing him out there on a back-to-back tonight where he really hadn't been playing back-to-backs because of his knee, right? So keep an eye on the Warriors. And obviously there's no reports of Steph missing time like that. He would probably just miss this Knicks game. But, you know, I say all this to say, look what happened last night with Kyrie. Look what happened to the Kings last season with Luka flopping on Malik Monk and Kevin Huerter. Anything can happen right now. This thing is far from over, whether it be the 6 seed, and we're talking about a Clippers team with Kawhi, right? So whether it's the 6, 7, or 8, I'm pretty confident no longer thinking about definitely the 10 seed. And I also want to say the 9 seed, but I'm not officially going there yet. The Kings offense, they did it by committee, very evenly distributed scoring. Let's discuss on the other side. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
All guests and callers join us from the